Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, the Eastern Red Cedar, also known as the Juniper virginiana. Let's take a peek. It's been a minute, or two or three, since I've worked on a tree on Dave's Bonsai. So I'm kind of excited to just kick back and look at a tree or two. And today we're going to look at a few trees that I picked up, Urban Yamidori style, from a friend of mine, Brandon, from the Minnesota Bonsai Society, who introduced me to his friend's garden, Japanese garden, that all good intentions, we meant to get over there several times this year and photograph it and look at his beautiful garden, his friend's garden that he works for. But this spring we did get to dig up a few trees, so I've got some Urban Yamidori, and I hope next year, Brandon, I'm sorry for the delay, next season I hope we get a couple of great videos made for this Japanese garden. So I collected a couple of trees, and this was one of them, the Eastern Red Cedar here. And there were two. There were more than, I think I might have had two or three. One did not make it. I took that out. And this is just in recycled bonsai soil. Oftentimes when we collecting trees, we will go ahead and collect trees and put them into pumice and let them sit for a year, maybe two, before we really touch them. All depending upon, of course, how much roots there might have been when we dug this up. So this one is growing really well. It's shot up, it's spread out, it's elongating. I think the root structure is okay. Now, I don't think I'm going to do a really hard prune today. What I'm just going to do is maybe clean up some of the branches that I know for sure I just don't want, and some of the dead branches down below, so we can actually see the structure of this tree. So let me get a tad closer for you, and we'll begin some work. So I have a rock in here, and I don't entirely remember why I put the rock in here. If this was possibly a tree leaning on a rock and we exposed that rock down the road, I really don't recall. I have to go back and watch the video of how I put this in here, if I even showed that. But right now I just want to see the bottom part of this tree. I want to get rid of some of this little stuff. What's nice to see here, I just recently fertilized, so I got some fresh fertilizer here, and boy does it smell nice too, is I've got some new growth way down here. For me to get back budding down here on a tree that was this stressed out and ripped out of the ground is really a good sign. Always nice to know that there's probably roots down there forming, and the fact that this has enough energy to shoot up and elongate and also do a little back budding. So we have some young tender growth back here, and some of it I just don't even know where it's shooting out from. And so I'm gonna take my glasses off here and let's get a little bit closer look. Cut out some branches that are kind of on the inside here. These aren't getting much sun in here. And so again, really today is all about kind of looking at a tree that I haven't looked at almost the entire year. Because I had such a busy season with the passive solar green frame and some other trips that we took, I just didn't have as much attention for some of the trees. So I've mentioned this on a recent video as well. That's not always a bad thing. Don't be afraid to let your trees just go wild, especially when you have trees like I do. I've been doing this for 7-8 years, and all my trees are in the developmental stage. They have a lot of work to go, a lot of growing. I've got a lot of stuff to do with a lot of the trees. And so in the beginning, we want our trees just to develop really kind of fast. We want to have a lot of pushing out of growth. To let it go this whole year was really awesome, probably, for this Yamadori. And again, for Yamadoris, we're not going to be coming in here and doing major work on a tree that we just dug out of the ground anyway. And so it was an easier tree for me to let go. What's nice about this tree, you're not going to see this on the camera, but this branch right here, there is a new bud right here by the tip of my scissors. There's a new bud. So this is back budding. A Yamadori taken from the ground, ripped up in spring, and it's got a lot of elongation and new roots, I'm assuming, because it's pushing out also some new growth, which is fantastic. Upon close inspection of the tree, we have to show you something. So let's get even a little closer. Now that I'm closer, can you see it? Do you have a little idea of what I might be introducing to you next? Look at this light, almost like blue-gray color right here. And right here. There we have some scale. I haven't had very many bugs on my trees this year. But again, I haven't looked at this tree up close in quite a long time. And I'm glad I looked at it today because now we're going to treat it for scale. So there we go. So we're going to have to clean off all this scale, pick it off, and then we're going to have to spray this tree, and then we're going to have to treat it and keep an eye on it so we can make sure that it's all taken care of. There's a fair amount on in this area right here, but as I spin it around, not a whole lot up in here. There's one over here, blue dot over here. So there's some scale over here. Most of it seems to be concentrated over this section right over here. So what I'll do is I'll make a couple of my trims today, and then I'll see what we want to keep. After I see what I want to keep, we'll then be able to clean up whatever I do keep that has scale on it. Here's a close-up of the scale by my fingers. We're going to pluck these off and get them off by hand, but then we're going to spray the tree. I'm glad that I got a peek at this right now so it wouldn't get too late in the season and me not pay attention to it for another 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then I have scale. Or worse yet, I bring this tree into a cold frame and then it spreads all over to my other trees. Even worse yet, perhaps I bring it in the PSGF and all those trees get infected. So, taking a peek at your trees, always a good thing. So we're going to continue to do a little bit of plucking here again, just with these lower branches, more so cutting than plucking. I've got a branch down here that I just don't even know. It's got nice growth in there, new bud right there. We're going to cut that one off. I want to see this tree. I want to see what's going on down here. And it looks like I have a couple possible multi-trunks going on in this tree here, which is kind of fun. We're going to get rid of some of this inside depth. I just want to see what this tree can offer. I think this branch is too low down here. This one's going to be like a bar branch. I've got the 2 branches in there. Looks like there was a cut there at one point. So yeah, inside of any grouping like this, you're going to have some depth, especially on a juniper. And this being the Eastern Red Cedar, a little bit more spacious, not quite as dense as a Japanese garden juniper variety. So super dense in that situation, not so much here. And so I can see what's alive, and I can see what's not doing so well, and we can just make some room for things to grow in the future. So I don't know if this will be a tree that we'll look at from this direction. Got a curvy branch here, or a trunk here, a trunk there. This is a branch, not a trunk. And this is, I think, a trunk here. So there's 3 trunks possibly, 4 trunks, and 5 out here. This one may come completely off one day. Not entirely sure. Got some back budding on there, so that's just nice to see. Back budding in there, that's really nice to see. I got another rock planted in here too, so I don't know what that rock is for. I'm not sure what I was doing with those rocks. I don't want these inside branches. They're just gonna be, they're gonna be weak. They're not getting much light. Gonna make some room to see the trunks of these trees, to see the potential future for what we're gonna do with this tree down the road long term. So that's most of the dead and dying branches. Again, we're not going to do too much with a lot of this tree right now. We're just going to see what's going to happen over the course of the next growing season in this box. Another good sign here, here's a nice branch here, and there's a back bud way back here. So this is nice. This Eastern Red Cedar is healthy. It is back budding. I think next year it'll really bush out and do a lot of fun things. So that's really nice. And then when I repot it in 2025, not next spring, but the next spring, I'll see what these rocks are and what kind of a trunk style we have. Now right here I have 3 branches really close together, and we have kind of a bar branch and then one growing this way. I think I'm going to take this one off for right now, so I have both directions but not quite on the same plane. So that was kind of an easy decision. And this one, I think, has some funky movement up here. I think I might just cut it off right there. And we got this big one up here. I'll just make it a little shorter. So we'll see what's going to happen with that tree. And again, this one we can just cut a little bit shorter. Again, not major chops. This is a very young set of trees here, but we're just going to cut things a little bit shorter for next season. And so if I do that with all the trees here, all the branches I should say, we've got a big branch up here. We've got 3 leaders up here, and then even a new one back here. If I cut this off, there's new leaders right there and there. I Can cut those off so a little bit more resemblance of a conical shape. Where is this guy gonna go? Okay, here we have a whole bunch of branches coming from the same spot here, several on the inside of the curve. I don't want that one there. This one I'll just shorten up. This one I'm gonna shorten up. All right, this one I'll do the same. These two are competing down here, so I think I'm gonna cut this whole branch right off. This right here, it's competing with this stuff back here, if that's even a front. But I like this branch here, it has a little bit more movement, so I'm just gonna keep those two and we can see the back a little bit better. I will cut that off. So we got some length back here, some length back here. And as always, if I'm directional pruning at all, if I want that branch to go more to the left, I'm going to cut off the right side. Yeah, so we have some competing branches in here. Back here is competing with this one, if that even stays. We got this nice thick branch over here, and that is a bit of a wide angle right there, but we could even have this as the front. But then these two branches back here crisscross, so maybe I take off that branch in favor of that one. So I'll leave them for now because those are decisions I just can't make right now until we see more of this thing grow up. This has got a little thick section here. This could even be a front right over here. But I got the big main tree in the back, so I think that has to be the main trunk right there. The big thick one, it's got some nice ramification already on here. I think I'm happy with this one right now. We cleaned it up a little bit. We shortened off some of the big tall stuff. Got these thicker branches down a little bit, not a major chop, but a couple of bigger ones up here. But now we just have a tree that's got a potential to go a whole bunch of different directions. We think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6 trunks on this one, and we'll be able to pick that when we repot it next, what it's gonna look like. So for right now, we just want all this to shoot up new growth next year. So it looks like after cutting most of these branches back, I got rid of about half of the scale that was left. And now we just have a few little spots in here where there's a couple of scale remaining. We're gonna go in and take those out again by hand. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go get some spray. So I'm gonna go get my BioSafe and we'll spray for the scale. So today I'm using my GrowSafe. I kept calling it BioSafe, but it's GrowSafe. And so this is an organic product that is an insecticide, miticide, fungicide. It's kind of a good all-purpose, and it's worked pretty well on several of my plants. I've never used it on scale yet though, so we're gonna give this a try. There we go. So we're gonna go ahead and spray this underneath, on the top. We're gonna take care of all of the scale on here with this GrowSafe. So we're getting things pretty heavy on there. It's starting to drip off now, real thick underneath, in the nooks and crannies of this Eastern Red Cedar that we discovered scale on. Now it's a pretty cool day. It's late afternoon. The sun popped out a little bit today for the first time in about 3 days or more, but short-lived, there's more clouds. But I'm in the shade. We're gonna let this sit on here for about 30 minutes, and then we're gonna rinse it off with the hose. So I'm gonna put this aside, and let's talk about a couple of the other Yamadoris that I dug up this spring from my friend Brandon. So the next Yamadori update from my friend Brandon's friend's place is the burning bush. So I got 3 burning bushes out of the ground that day that we collected in the spring, and they're all doing relatively fine. I have cut back a little bit on these. We have a couple that here, this one's splits off, and it's kind of a weird 3-way trunk there. This one back here has about a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trunks there. And this one right here just has a nice solo trunk right here with this kind of odd inside branch there. So we'll go ahead and do a couple of trims on this one as well, just to kind of know, you know, we're not going to keep some of these branches, so let's go ahead and cut those off. I'm going to cut this one here. So one of the nice things about the Urban Yamadori, or any Yamadori we're collecting in the wild, is it has the benefit of the critter chop. It has the benefit of a snowmobile possibly running over it, or someone walking through too close and breaking a branch. And then things get thicker and curlier and windier and all gnarly and wild, right? Because of the things that happen just in nature. And so we're going to go ahead and cut this where it splits into two, and we'll just cut it right here. So there's the solo tree. We just have 2 branches up here. We'll see how things back bud and shoot out on that tree right there. For that 5 tree in the back, these are almost like braiding through each other. So we're not going to want that long term. We don't want that braiding tree. And there's another young set of growth right down here. It's kind of braiding back here and going in and out of each other. We've got a couple of nice trunks there though. But these are just too close together. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this middle one in the back. And so now we have these two, and I'm going to get rid of this back side over here so it goes a different direction. Then I'm also going to cut this off so it promotes the growth over here. We have a dead section right there. I can go a little bit closer right here. Get that right off of there. This one's growing inside, so we'll let the back one grow. And so now I have 4 trunks down there. Let's get it down to a 3. Garage door slam for you there. And these crisscross, so I'm going to take rid of that one in the back, cut this dead part off, trim it back, trim it back. We'll see what those 3 trunks do right there. Could we have a really nice triple trunk someday? We'll find out. So there we have the big wound right there. We've got some movement here. I'll go ahead and clean up this bottom section here. And again, this is a Yamadori that I've trimmed a couple times this year. I did get to this one a couple times this year. So I know that it's shot up multiple moments of growth this year. There we go. So get those a little bit tighter. There we go. So we have the single trunk, we have the triple trunk. That was a quadruple, no, a 5-way trunk, right? Now this one has a weird, they're all growing together. This one grows out nice, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut this off and cut this off a little bit shorter right there. I'll cut off this center one here. We wanna go from 1 to 2 whenever we can. Now these 2 crisscross and just fight with each other. Can I wire this out sometime? I possibly could. We'll cut that branch off. It does split up here pretty nicely. So that's a nice branch back here actually, or a nice tree. This kind of comes up here, curves around and goes up this way and splits into 2 here. But then that tree in the background gets in the way. So I think we'll just cut that one off. We can cut that off completely. And have a little bit more of a gnarly base down here. And we'll just let the other 2 branches survive for now for a multi-trunk. And we'll just see what that develops into. We've got an inside branch over here that's just going to compete, an inside branch over here that's going to compete, so we'll just take that off. So there's my burning bushes all trimmed up. We'll let them do what they need to do this fall. Let's pull out one of the other Yamadoris. So I wasn't sure what this tree was for a little while until I started to realize the leaf pattern. And we have kind of this literati style tree where you have this tall lanky thing, and then I can either wire it back down here or just let the trees grow down this way. We can have kind of that literati style. But as I saw the leaves grow, this looks to be more like one of the ash varieties where you get but usually ash will have kind of a 5 to 7 leaf pattern per petiole. If I'm saying that correctly. This one has 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2 on that one. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I don't know if it's a variety of an ash tree. I'll have to go back and talk with Brandon and see. My ash tree in my yard has 5 leaves per petiole here. And so it might not be an ash. But we do have 2 branches growing right here from the exact same spot. We're just going to cut one of them off. We're going to cut this nub a little bit shorter because it's already died back. And we're going to leave it like that. So again, a potential literati style tree. Don't know how these leaves are going to react. I have to dig into the kind of tree, but if it is an ash tree, those ashes with the 5 leaves per petiole there, don't know how much they reduce compared to other trees. So we'll see what this one does over the course of the next couple of years. Another Yamadori could be fun if it keeps this pattern. If I can grow some leaves now down this way in branches, that'd be really kind of fun. Yamadori number 3. It looks like my fertilizer is growing lots of clover leaf weeds. So I've been doing this a lot this year. When I have weeded, I've taken out these clover leaves a lot. So again, from the collection this spring, I have a couple of maples here that were just abused on this lot and chopped here. Look at this big chop, and then there's got this curve down here, and here's the new growth right there. So can I chop it right here? I will, but maybe not today. Maybe I'll cut off this one side, and maybe in the spring after the first push of growth, because again, this is a Yamadori collected tree. I don't want to go overboard, but I'll just cut that section off. I'll cut the nub down a little bit because it's dead wood already. Yep, there we go. Now that's a knuckle right there. That's not going to be pretty, but I'm hoping for life right down there. So this is going to be back budding down here. We have this swirl here, curl here. We could have some kind of a fun tree right there and get these leaves smaller over time. Here's another one, super small. You can see some back budding way down here. It's got some fun character in it. It's just small and wiggly. We're going to leave it alone. Look at this one bending almost completely back on itself, back to where it started. Starts over here, comes this way, comes back over this way. How fun is that? So we could probably cut it down to these 3 branches for today too, and we'll just leave plenty of room for dieback on this one. And there you go. You've got these 3 leaves here, 3 different. We'll keep one of those next year and see what kind of tree that could become. Could be a really interesting maple trees. Most maple trees are not going to grow that wildly crooked. They're going to grow up and have all kinds of branches going up and then eventually out when they're bigger. So this is a very unique looking maple tree, but that could make it even more fun to work on. And then this one just has a really big gnarly section here, like it was totally ripped off right now. And it's starting to try to heal there, but from this direction you can see it's a little bit of a reverse taper right there. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a fresh scar here. See if I can get that angle right. So we can maybe get rid of some of that reverse taper right in there. And when you get the healing on these trees, you know, they're going to swell up a little bit and create some of that reverse taper, but that might help it just a little bit more. Just help it along its way to healing. We'll see. And it could just give it some character. And from the right angle, you might not see that scar as much. And again, it comes up here and it splits into kind of a two-way split with a little bit of gnarliness back here. And this is just all going to go away someday for our back budding that's going to happen hopefully next season. So we're just going to leave those alone right there and see where it starts to back bud. And we can cut it way back after the first flush of growth next spring. After the first flush hardens off, we'll cut some back, do some major chopping again, and just let it push out growth. So there's the maple cluster with all kinds of fun movement. Now my last tree, it looks like it's just got a little frost on it or some snow, but that's kind of a powdery, mildewy substance that I want to get off of there. Not sure what that is. It's kind of white and looks like it got snowed on. Looks like a little bit of a mossy or a fungusy type of situation. They're very cottony, very billowy, and I see it a little bit on a couple of the leaf tips here. So just giving this one a good clean with the toothbrush, and then we're going to go ahead and put some Grow Safe on this one as well to see if we can get rid of it, because we have the fungicide, miticide all in one with this Grow Safe. And we're going to put that on here and spray it off as well when we spray off the Eastern Red Cedar. So that's a new substance to me. I'm not sure what that white powdery kind of mildewy looking, fungusy looking thing is. So I'm assuming it's something like that. If anybody knows, help me out in the comments. I will spray it with my my Grow Safe, and hope that we have good luck with eradicating that. And let's get the spray and give it a good spray. There we go. I had just enough spray to get the tree from top to bottom. We're dripping now with some extra substance on here. We're going to let this sit again for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll rinse this off, as well as that Eastern Red Cedar. I'm not going to cut anything off this tree right now. We did one cut earlier in the spring right here. I think I'd cut these down a little bit shorter. We're just going to let this back bud next spring and store up all the energy that it has, and hopefully that powdery mildew stuff does not come back on this tree. We'll keep a close eye on it. So we'll spray it off here in just a few minutes. There we have the crabapple tree. We've got a nice leaning tree. The trunk is thickening up. We have nothing in here, so we'll have to see what happens. We've got all the growth up here, but there's this nice little leaf down here. We know that it'll backbud an old wood, so that's good. We hope for more of that next season as it gets more roots from collecting it this past spring. So I hope I got rid of all of the fungus issue that was on here. We sprayed it with some Grow Safe. We cleaned it up with the hose, and now we'll take care of this thing, keep a close eye on it, and so it's going to be all ready for next year in a big growth season. Let's bring up the red cedar and call it a day. And our final tree is the tree we started with today, and that is the Eastern Red Cedar. Now, we had some scale to deal with, and we just did a little bit of trimming. So I believe all the scale is off. We have treated it with the Grow Safe, and we have rinsed it off with the hose, and I'm not seeing any visible marks of the scale. That was a water droplet, That one right there, that might have been one final scale. So I'm really glad that I decided to do a show on the Eastern Red Cedar here and my Yamadoris, because I haven't looked at them for a while, especially this one, and I got the scale before this season where we bring it into a cold frame, which is just around the corner, or leave it out next to trees where it's going to cause some spreading of that possibly. I've got a branch that's just too thick, too long. I'm going to take that one off as well. So there's our Eastern Red Cedar. We've got it in the box. I think we're just going to store up all kinds of energy with the fertilizer that's been put on recently, and it's going to be shooting up really good next year with all the roots that it established this year and all the new growth that I saw and all the back budding that I'm seeing, real tiny, but in many places. So that's going to wrap it up. So those of you that don't know, I'm a teacher by day, and this is the start of the 4th week of school already. So fall can be a very busy time getting school organized and getting back into the system and the swing of things. And of course, behind your camera there, the way I'm looking is the PSGF. And we've got some updates on that coming up around the corner too. But it was really nice just to work on a couple of trees, because I haven't done that for a long time. Soft work, light work, nothing real major, no major styling decisions, just kind of preparing it for this last fall push of what am I going to do with my trees, where are they going to go, are they safe, are they healthy, do they have scale on them, what can I do to prepare them so we're all set next spring when the season really gets busy. So this will be fun to see where it goes. We've got 5 or 6 trunks down there. We'll see what the rocks were for, and that'll be fun to see in the spring of 2025. We'll not let it grow in here, though, all next year. So 2025, we'll reveal this, and I hope you keep following me to see what happens with that. So with that, Brandon, a shout out to you too again. Hey, we'll get over there and we'll get some images of the beautiful Japanese garden. That'll have to happen next year, so I can't wait to do that. We'll make something work. And the PSGF. Boy, there's some updates. We're getting closer every day. All right, until we have that update or another treat or two to work on, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you very soon on the next one.